it's much more important to us than getting paid, a stipend for being a board member. That's much more secondary. Our goal is to create value in the stock. And that's why we were able to make this decision, and why a lot of companies won't be able to do it, because they can't get that type of consensus on their board, and their board members don't want to take what they perceive as that type of risk. They see it as a very risky kind of, I think, in some cases, probably, just too outside the box for them to make that bold a decision. And they'd rather just maintain the status quo. And so that's why we did it. That's why we were able to do it, and maybe why it's not happening as fast as it should. You would think that more companies with lots of cash on their balance sheet, big and small, would turn to owning some Bitcoin, just the way that Wisconsin pension fund is buying Bitcoin, or so many other institutions are buying it now with the ETFs. You would think that there would be more announcements. It's surprising there hasn't been, but maybe we were able to be early because our board has so much skin in the game.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You want these directors to have skin in the game, values aligned, to drive value to the underlying shares at the end of the day. And it does make sense that a board with that mindset and that skin in the game would be more willing to make a jump like this. And it seems like we're in the trickle phase of this Bitcoin treasury strategy in public markets specifically. What do you think it's going to take to get the interest of other boards in the public markets that get their interest peaked to say, oh, maybe we should be doing this too? Because if you look at the reaction, particularly of the stock price for companies, not only Semler, but others like MicroStrategy, a lot was Alliance Resources, the coal producer that announced that they've been mining Bitcoin for a few years now. It has been very beneficial to the underlying stock price. And do you think that creates some FOMO from other boards in the public markets that will force them to seriously consider the strategy?
Yeah, I do. I think it's a herd mentality thing. It goes full circle to what we've been talking about with the stock market and how powerful that herd mentality concept is. I think you're going to, it helps that our stock did have a great reaction. I think other companies, smaller probably rather than larger, will look at that and say, wow, maybe we should try that. We've had a really positive reaction from people outside the company and investors. And so I think that definitely helps. And it's probably going to take more than just us and a successful stock performance or MicroStrategy to pull that off. But I think it will happen gradually and incrementally, like you said. I think that what will happen is that a lot more board members and companies, executives will see that Bitcoin is a great store of value. I think that just time is the best element to prove that. So as just more time passes and Bitcoin, separates itself from other cryptocurrency and there's no alternative to Bitcoin.
Do you still have your Bitcoin on an exchange? Don't hold your Bitcoin on an exchange. Take it into self-custody. If you're looking for an easy way to do that, we have the BitKey. BitKey is Bitcoin made easy to use and hard to lose. Take the first step, get your Bitcoin off the exchange. Check out the link in the show notes. That'll get you 20% off your BitKey, or use the code TFTC20 at checkout.
That will just gain strength and as a store of value, and people will just more and more look at it versus gold and say, wow, it's that's a huge disparity. There's a huge disparity in value between Bitcoin and gold. And so you have kind of this dual attractiveness of Bitcoin. It's a great store of value, but it also is a great investment. And so I think those two factors will eventually lead to a herd mentality where you'll see a lot of companies do what we did.
And outside of this treasury asset, what most excites you about Bitcoin, whether it be the technology or the potential it has to unleash innovation or freedom as we move forward through time? Like, do you find Bitcoin simply as a unique investment opportunity and good treasury asset, or is it bigger than that to you?
I don't think I'm still exploring that concept. I think there's so much to think about there. It has so much optionality. And it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of things that talked about come to fruition. As an investment, I'm not banking on that. I'm just banking on this kind of increased notion as a store of value, and it becoming more and more embraced by people as a store of value. I think what's really exciting is that the younger generation really embraces Bitcoin, and that's the future. And I think that that's just a huge driving factor in Bitcoin becoming more institutionalized, more established. And as that's happening, just to see like the huge, institutions like BlackRock, really supporting it, that combination is super powerful. Having, these massive institute, like, it's hard to get any more impressive than BlackRock as an institutional supporter for something. When you have BlackRock on your side and you have a whole generation coming up that, a lot of whom believe in this asset, and then you have these issues around the world. It's probably more pronounced, much more outside the United States, where currencies are getting debased. It's just it's an incredibly strong force. And so whether Bitcoin becomes more transactional or becomes, something that's valuable in healthcare, that's great. That's gravy. But I'm not necessarily, it doesn't, for it to be a successful investment, I don't think it necessarily requires those, additional things.
Yeah, I think that's a very sober approach to it. And it's refreshing to see somebody of your caliber who's really had an incredibly successful career investing through many different types of cycles and themes and emergent technologies, recognizing this. And then not only that, but putting your money where your mouth is and really putting Bitcoin on Semler's balance sheet is I think going to be looked back in a decade as one of the wisest moves. I mean, juxtaposed to what some sovereign nations like Germany dumping, I think, more than 30,000 Bitcoin in the last week alone.